Okay, so hopefully you finished watching part one. What we're going to do now is we're going to try and clean up some of the seams that we have here in the grass. You can see for the most part our buildings are pretty seamless. Looks like something repeated on Wrigley a little bit, and we'll try using the clone stamp tool on that as well. So the tool you're going to need here is called the clone stamp, as I've already said. It's over here in the toolbar. Right click when you go over there and just make sure clone stamp tool is selected. And the way this works is actually pretty cool. If you hold down Alt and click something, when you go to use the brush, it will create a clone of the spot you clicked. So you can see some of the grass from this side I'm pulling into the left side. In addition, if I click the clone stamp, hold Alt and click over here in this grass, I can bring some of this grass into the other side. So you can actually use this to kind of even out that seam where it comes across the center, and just by clicking Alt and holding Alt and clicking in some different places, you can kind of blend the seam and make it a little less obvious that it starts and ends in the center here. Use that in a few different spots here, kind of pull some of each type of grass into the other side. It should give it a little bit of a smoother transition. I'm going to do the same thing here in the trees. You can see the trees on the right that were originally, on the left side of the picture, a little bit darker than the ones that were on the right. So again, I can use the clone tool and kind of soften that seam up a little bit. Now here on Wrigley, I'm not sure how well this is going to work, but we'll give it a shot. I think we're going to end up with kind of a double image of the windows here. We can clean it a little. Yeah, that's just going to make it more of a mess than it already is, and I don't think it's that noticeable. Now what you can do if you'd like, after you've kind of cleaned up the grass, you can use the move tool to rotate your planet whatever direction you'd like. I'll do it like this time. Once you're done, just make sure you click something in the toolbar and hit apply. And now what we need to do is make the sky around it. Now in my case, I wanted it to be a blue sky. You could do something different, but what you're going to need is no matter what you end up doing, a light color and a dark color. So I started with a lighter sort of sky blue color, and then also had a darker, almost a royal blue color. You can use the gradient tool to do the background. So the first thing I need to do is press Control-Shift-N and give myself a new layer. I'm going to make sure that it is behind my planet layer. And then I'm going to select the gradient tool. I think I'm going to sneeze. I don't want to do it again on video. You guys have already had to suffer through one. Okay, I think I'm better. So select the gradient tool, and then up here at the top, you can select what kind of gradient you want to do. The second one, which is right here, is a radial gradient, and that's what we want. It's going to do the gradient in circular format. Regular gradient gives you something that fades from one color into another, depending on the direction you pick. But it'll go from left to right or from top to bottom, depending on how you click and drag that angle. With the radial gradient, what it does is it goes from a circle in the center and radiates outward from there. And what we want for this is to have the lighter color. So the lighter color should be your foreground color when you start this, and the darker color should be your background color in the color window, color picker over here. And I'm going to start in the center and click and drag to the outer edge of my picture, and that'll set my gradient with the light color in the center and the darker color kind of around it. And you can see there's almost a spherical shape here in the center. And then the last thing I added, which I thought looked kind of cool, was some lens flare to make it look like there's bright sunlight. So I'm going to go to Filter, Render, and Lens Flare. And then I thought the one that really worked best was the 105mm prime here. And you can kind of see where it'll be positioned. You want to do this on your gradient layer. But you can see wherever you click here in this box, that's where it will position your quote-unquote sun. I'm going to try to get it so that it's somewhere near the Hancock building here, and then hit OK. And now I have some what looks like bright sunlight here appearing behind my buildings. I'm going to actually move it just a little bit from where it was. Again, filter, render, lens flare. I'm going to move it a little bit higher, a little bit to the right. There we go. So now I kind of have the sun shining behind my tiny planet here. That's really it. The majority of this project is just going to be the cutting and pasting. You can see the last part here goes pretty quick. But that's really it. Hope you guys enjoy your tiny planets, and I'll see you in class. Okay, so the last thing we need to do is talk about the rubric. The first thing I'm going to look at, and again, I'm just going to go over the A+ section of the rubric. The first thing I'm going to look at is that your planet is composed of at least 8 locations, either real or fictional, that have some personal significance. So just make sure you have 8 buildings or 8 places. Second, the locations are arranged properly. All locations overlap or are overlapped by another and are behind the grass layer. There are no gaps underneath the locations, no floaters. So just to show you what I mean by that, let's just say I had the Illini Union up this far where I could see part of Hogwarts behind it, or I could see the background underneath it. Just make sure that you don't have any gaps like that. Look at your locations, and zoom in if you have to make sure that that's not happening. You just basically don't want any holes through what you did. Number 3, your locations were cut and pasted accurately. No jagged edges, artifacts, or surrounding halos of sky or background from the image you copied from. And you guys are all pretty good with the pen tool at this point. I'm actually really happy with how well you've been able to handle it. But again, just to illustrate what I mean, this is a real quick one I did just to see if my idea would work. There are actually programs that make these tiny planets for you from Panoramic Photos, but I wanted this to be a kind of collage version of that where you could have your own locations. So I needed to test it. So this is my test one, but you can see I have a lot of random artifacts. I have this weird floating piece of something up here in the sky. You can also see I have a lot of sky halos around it where I did not cut accurately, so I was left with chunks of the background still attached to my original photo. Same thing here along the tree line over along the Sears Tower. So just make sure that you're cutting accurately enough that there's no additional pieces left and no leftover parts of the background. Number 4, your sky gradient flows from light to dark from the center. You use the radial gradient and you use the lens flare filter to show bright sunlight. Just make sure that when you make your final picture that you are using a gradient that flows from light to dark from the center, and that you get your lens flare to be your bright sunlight. Lastly, you saved your image properly as a PNG, uploaded it to Office 365, and shared it with me. So we're going to try something different this time instead of your student folder. So let me get into my Office 365 here. Just show you how to do it. So just go to OneDrive. You can make a new folder. Call this one DP. And then I'm going to go into that folder. And I'm going to share you just need to drag and drop your image. I will upload it to the folder. So then you just need to right click here and go to share. And then in this box, you would just type in my name and mine comes up, and then just click share, and that will hopefully send me an email that says you shared the file with me. And then the last is that you gave your best effort and used your class time well, which is the same on every rubric. The last thing I would like you to do, this rubric will also be in the shared folder. So what I would like you to do when you are done with the project is download it. I would like you to assess yourself. So give yourself a grade based on how you think you did on the project. And then I would also like you to upload your final rubric with your self-assessment, your name, and the date. Save that, upload it to the folder, and share that with me as well, because then that way I can just edit it and you can receive your grade that way. We don't have to keep doing it over email. That's it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I will see you in class.